Welcome to Stories That Matter. Thank you for coming out on July 27th. Okay, so next storyteller, Pat, come on up.
I think so. Hi, I'm Pat Kelley. I grew up in Queens, New York. I was an only child. Yay, Queens, yes. I was an only child, but I grew up in an extended Polish family. I'm sorry? No, Queens, Flushing. Flushing, yeah.
That's a Polish neighborhood.
Yeah, okay. Now you know. My grandfather was a carpenter, and he built houses he made a living by building houses and built houses for the entire extended family. There were 14 of us. My grandparents, who I called Babci and Dziadek, Polish for grandma and grandpa. My parents, 4 uncles, 3 aunts, 2 cousins, and myself. We were very close, physically close, emotionally close. And I never had an outside babysitter. I was always cared for by family members. And on this particular day of the incident, it was a summer's day. My parents were working, and I was put in the care of my aunt and my grandmother Babci. It happened to be laundry day, which at that time was a very labor-intensive process. Everything was done by hand in the basement with 2 big wash tubs downstairs, washboards, no washing machine, no dryer. When the clothes were washed, they were taken up outside, hung on the line, and some of them were placed on the lawn for drying and bleaching by the sun. Since they were so busy, they entrusted my care to my cousin, who was 4 years older. I was about 4 and a half, so he was about 8 or 9. He had 2 of his friends over, and we played tag, and I was it. Now, next to my aunt's house was a house under construction. My Dziadek had been building this house for a family named Besko, so this became the Besko house. At the time, what had been done was a foundation, the first floor, all the studs, and the roof. The basement, the cellar, was unfinished. The cement floor had not been put in because it had been raining a lot. So the basement consisted of mud and water and rocks. Well, unfinished houses are a great place for kids to play. So my cousin and his friend said, let's go play tag in the house. So we were on the first floor, and they ran through the studs, and in the floor was a hole that was the size of a staircase that would eventually be built to have access to the basement. They were jumping over that, and I tried to jump, and I did not make it. And I fell through the floor into the cellar. My arms were flailing, my legs were up in the air, my little dress was up, and I fell flat on my back into the cellar in mud, water, and rocks. I could not move, but I could scream. I was screaming. My cousin ran around to get me down in the basement. A neighbor came, and I was crying, please carry me, carry me. But they didn't want to. I was covered with mud. They marched me back over to my grandmother, to Babci, who took me into those wash tubs down the basement, scrubbed me, washed my hair, all the while saying, you're fine, stop crying, don't tell your mother. So she got me all cleaned up, took me outside. My aunt was out there, and they said, don't tell your mother. You must not tell your mother. And I thought, I don't want to tell my mother. I don't want to get my Babci and my aunt in trouble. And they gave me the job to make me stop crying. They said, pick up the laundry off the grass. I did that. Every time I bent over to pick that up, my back, my head, my legs hurt a lot. But I finished the job. A little while later, my mother came and picked me up, and I did not tell her anything about the day. And I never told her anything about the day and what had happened. Put a bookmark there right at this second. We go fast forward 25 years. I lived in San Diego, and I was working as a teacher there, University of San Diego. One night, I get a call from my mom. Without preliminaries, she says, "When you were little, did you fall through the floor at the Besco house?" And I said, "Yes." It turns out all my relatives still lived in Queens. She was with them that evening, and my uncle, who wasn't at the incident but knew about it, said, "Remember the time Pat fell through the floor?" My mother knew nothing. She was very angry at her mother and my aunt for keeping this. A child had fallen, a traumatic fall. No one told her. But she did get over her anger. I was an adult. I was still alive. No problem, no harm done. Maybe that's not the case. Let's go back. After the incident, it was time for me to go to school. And you had to get a vaccination. You had to get a doctor's examination. My parents took me to our family doctor, Dr. Carter. He examined me, and he gave me my vaccination. And then he sat down with my parents while I wandered around the examination room looking at the strange things there. And he had some concerning news for my parents. He said, "Well, I've discovered that Pat has something wrong with her heart. She has a heart murmur, and I recommend that you take her to the clinic at Queens General Hospital." Now, Queens General Hospital was the first municipal hospital in Queens. It was designed to serve low-income people. It was opened in 1935, and by 1936, it was severely overcrowded. My parents worked full-time. My father was a butcher, my mother was a factory worker, but because we were low income, we qualified for Queens General. So I went there about 15 years after it had opened, and it was more severely crowded than ever. There were people on beds lining the hallways, people in wooden wheelchairs. If you've ever seen kind of pictures of old hospitals, this is what Queens General was like. It was almost like a third world clinic. If we got there early, we might get a seat. Otherwise, people were seated on the floor. People were crying in the hallway on the stretchers. A very disturbing situation for anyone, let alone a 5-year-old kid. So I did not want to go there. It was a horrible place. The doctors were very dedicated, though, and they wanted to know what was wrong with this little kid's heart. And they asked my mother, has anything happened to this child? No. Was she sick? No. They could not. Why did this child have this weird heart thing? They had ruled out an innocent murmur. Children have innocent, but this was something different. So they did tests. Blood tests were a normal thing. They involved, at the beginning, my mother holding me on her lap while technicians tried to find a vein in my skinny little arm. I screamed a lot. Cardiograms were consisting of straps on your wrists and your ankles and your chest, were very long. I held my breath, hoping that that squiggly line would be normal, so I wouldn't have to go back here. I had x-rays regularly. I had fluoroscopes. If you know what that is, a continuous x-ray where we were in a darkened room, doctors with goggles, while I stood on the other side so they could see my heart functioning. You may notice I have a glow about me. It's from all the radiation that I received as a child. At one point, they insisted I must have had rheumatic fever. So I took penicillin every single day for 2 years. Today I have rheumatoid arthritis, probably a result of my immune system being damaged at that time. I finally aged out of the pediatric clinic. By the way, Queens General presented the city with headaches over the years. At one point, one of the congressmen said it was a snake pit. This is how it was. And finally, it was destroyed and a new medical center was built there. Well, after I became an adult, I continued to have my heart checked, and I got a lot of diagnoses. So it's a valve, it's your heart is thicker. One doctor would give me a diagnosis, the next one would say, no, that's not it at all. And I still, to this day, I see a cardiologist. But a few years ago, I myself was looking up, what is wrong with this, my heart? And I found an article that said a traumatic fall in a child can result in heart damage. And to this day, and my family of 14 consists of one person, me. They have all died. They died in their 50s and 60s. I've gone pretty much past that. But to this day, I wondered if the truth had been told early on, if my mother could have told those doctors she had this fall, that perhaps I would have been spared as a child years and years of pain and worry because of the why.
Thank you, Pat. Pat Kelley. Okay, let's see. So we know that her grandparents were from Poland and Germany, so we know that part. Let's see, so we'll lose that page. And so she was, Pat has spent a lot of time in education, and I believe you taught sociology, right? Yeah, for the longest time. So we've had a couple of conversations, but not too much in depth, so interesting stuff. She believes that, when I asked her what makes her happy, she said happiness is being content with one's situation and possessions, which I think I agree with as well. Strange things, she was in Los Angeles in 1974, and she saw a Lamborghini Countach, close enough. See, when I was taking foreign languages, I wasn't taking foreign languages. And she said it looked like a plane, so it became the dream car, and it's something she's always wanted but hasn't got. So if anybody out there, you have a spare, you can let it go that way. And let's see, she would be a cat if she could be an animal. I have there's some good animals in here we'll get to. Okay, so thank you, Pat, for the story. Appreciate it.